Hey guys, as you might know, I am busy cooking my way through the cookbook Pizza Night by Stafford. This week I'm going to be making two new recipes, a classic Margherita pizza with basil from my backyard container herb garden, which by some miracle I have managed not to kill in the 2.5 months I've been sustaining it, and a really amazing looking spring chopped salad with edamame, snap peas, endive, and asparagus. I'll also be giving you a quick rundown of the two recipes that I made last week and letting you know how that ended up going, what went right, what went horribly wrong, and what I'm going to do differently this week based on that experience. With that, I'm excited to get cooking, so let's get in depth. Hi, I'm Maddie, and I write a newsletter called On the Cusp, where I initially wrote about my personal goal or project to cook my way through this entire cookbook, Pizza Night by Stafford. I'm documenting that challenge here, but this isn't really a cooking show. It's more of an exploration of the expected and unexpected joys and frustrations of going in depth on just about any hobby. My biggest hope is actually that this inspires you to start or continue on your own in-depth exploration of a hobby of your own, whether that's cooking your way through this cookbook here with me week by week, or taking up something completely unrelated. You can follow along by subscribing to my newsletter or on YouTube. All right, now a recap of what I made last week and how it went. To refresh your memory and mine, that pizza recipe last week was the salami and red onion pizza with Calabrian chilies and hot honey. I also made the accompanying salad, which was a little gem salad with avocado, scallions, cucumber, and green goddess dressing. Overall, I would say it went pretty well. The recipes made sense, the proportions felt right, and the flavor combinations were great across the board. But there are a few things that I would do differently next time, and I also definitely learned about my own preferences in the process. Let's start with the salad because that's a little bit less complex. As I mentioned last time, I had difficulty finding the specialty little gem lettuce. Not a big deal. Stafford, the author, provides some substitutions. But I think that my chosen substitution, butter lettuce, ended up being a bit too soft. And Ali used the word crisp somewhere in the recipe, which I should have taken note of, and bought a more crisp lettuce because I think it would have held up overall a little bit better to some of the other textures within the dish. Basically, the butter lettuce was just a little bit too soft and flavorless for my taste in this particular recipe. Next time, if I can't find little gem lettuce, I would pick something either crisper for that nice crunch in the salad, or I would choose something maybe with a bit more flavor, like baby arugula or something. The recipe had me shaving ribbons of asparagus and cucumber, which were really beautiful. That said, I would say that the cucumber ended up feeling a bit watery and soggy in that preparation, and I would probably just chop those up next time for a little bit more of a bite. The flavor of the green goddess salad dressing was incredible, and I would definitely make that again, and I'm sure I will be this upcoming year. But I would also say that I craved some of the herbs that were in that dressing in the salad itself, and maybe I would have thrown in a handful of chopped herbs just to up the flavor profile in the rest of the salad. The overall feel of this salad was pretty soft for my taste, especially once you threw in the avocado at the end. So now that I'm looking back at the head notes of the recipe and seeing Ali mention other spring veggie substitutions like edamame or snow peas, I think I would have gone with one of those as well for a little bit of an extra crunch. All right, on to the good stuff, the pizza. I was probably a little bit ambitious choosing the cover recipe for my first pizza out of this book for a couple of reasons. First, it was a thin crust pizza dough, which is still a skill that's a little bit new to me. In addition to the pretty thin dough, there were also a lot of toppings, which not only meant a lot of prep, which wasn't such a big deal, but also more weight on top of the pizza, which added to the issue with sticking that I experienced. Rolling out the pizza dough was taking a little bit too long for my taste, and so I made the mistake of stretching it just a tiny bit, and that introduced some areas of thinness that then ended up in tears later on in the oven. Next time, I would definitely exhibit a little bit more patience as I rolled out the dough. That issue with the thin dough started to become a problem once I tried to launch it into the oven, and it did not want to leave the peel. I launched it a little bit too close to the back of the oven because it really didn't want to leave the peel, and then it burned before I could successfully turn it. Clearly, making sure that things don't stick and figuring out the temperature of the oven are both going to be learning points for me over the next year. As for the toppings, they all tasted amazing. I probably couldn't tell the difference between the fancy and non-fancy mozzarella, so I might cheap out on that a little bit more next time. It was also hard to get the salami thinly sliced enough by hand, so I might use a mandolin for that next time. Finally, the hot honey tasted amazing. I would say getting a jar of that with a finer pointed tip would be helpful in directing the flow of the honey on top of the pizza. Mine was a little bit gloppy. And in the hustle and stress of getting the pizza out of the pizza oven without burning horribly, I did forget to put the whipped ricotta on some of the slices until it was almost too late, which was a total mistake because that was one of the best parts of the recipe. I think I could probably eat whipped ricotta on just about anything. All right, enough talk about last time. Let's get on to this week's recipes. As I mentioned earlier, pizza-wise, I'm going to be making a margherita pizza this week. The ingredient list for this was blessedly short and straightforward, which I very much appreciated. The one new thing here, which I'm really excited about, was the chance to make the Neapolitan-style dough, and I could not be more excited to see how that one turns out. Neapolitan pizzas are probably my favorites, and so if all goes well, just having that in my back pocket is going to be an incredible skill to have. So where the margherita pizza is pretty straightforward, the salad is a little bit more fun. We've got some really good spring veggies in this one, including shelled peas, asparagus, edamame, Belgian endive, which I learned this week comes in two formats, frisée and kind of a smaller head of endive, and that was an interesting learning point for me. We've also got some snap peas, salami, which I'm leaving out because my vegetarian brother is coming over for dinner tonight, scallions, radishes, manchego cheese, pepperoncini, and some amazing looking Italian dressing. Other than the dough recipe, nothing skill-wise feels too new or challenging, which is kind of a nice break from last week, I would say. But the flavor combinations of the salad are really exciting, so I'm pumped to see how that turns out. And if you happen to be cooking through this cookbook along with me, hop into the comments and let me know how last week's recipe went for you, and if you're making this week's one with me as well. So far, the prep work for these two recipes has gone pretty straightforward, I would say. The grocery list was blessedly shorter than last week, and the grocery bill was more manageable too. Things clocked in at $56 with a few bucks spent at the farmer's market and the rest at the grocery store. And other than the endive, which was a little bit of a scavenger hunt, everything was pretty straightforward to find in the grocery aisles too. As for the grocery shopping, that's actually one kind of bigger picture, interesting musing that I had this week about this project. In my day-to-day life, I really don't enjoy going to the grocery store. Give me almost any other household task. I will clean the bathroom, I'll vacuum, do the dishes, do laundry. Even meal planning is not such a big deal at this point. I've got that down to a science. But ask me to head out to the grocery store and I will procrastinate as long as possible on that one. As I was wandering the aisles this week, though, I realized that if this challenge is going to be sustainable for me, not only am I going to have to learn how to tolerate the grocery store, I'm actually probably going to have to learn how to actively enjoy myself because I'm going to be spending a lot of time there this year. I'm also in the process of doing a small home improvement project, and this came up in that area of my life as well this week when I realized, oh, so I'm going to have to go to Home Depot about 400 times over the course of this thing. And I realized that that probably shares some commonalities with any other new undertaking of any kind of hobby. There's probably some foundational, boring stuff that's repetitive and that you just plain don't like to do, but that you're going to have to get over the hump of not liking to enjoying in order to see it through. All right, enough talk. Let's make some food. Next time, I will be back to share how everything tasted, what went right, what went wrong, and what I learned in the process. And of course, I will be making even more food to share with you. In the meantime, here's one question to ask yourself in your own pursuit of depth. Is there a foundational or repetitive part of this process that I'm gonna have to learn to love? And how am I going to do that? All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. I will see you here next time.